Sportageous. Sport gets smarter.
Welcome to the Sportageous Videocast, everyone. Joining us today is Matt Short, who is an exciting young right-handed Australian batsman who also bowls handy off-spinners. He has formerly played for the Adelaide Strikers and Melbourne Renegades in the Big Bash League and currently representing Victoria in the Sheffield Shield. Welcome to the show, Matt. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thanks, mate. It's going to be a good hour.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. So let's kick off things. So tell us, who is Matthew William Short and how did he get into cricket? Was it a family sport or was it a passionate hobby that turned into a career? What was it actually?
Yeah, I think growing up in a smallish country town in Victoria, grew up with an older brother and a younger brother, so there was the three of us. We just loved all sports. So we'd always come home from school or something and you know, one night it might be basketball or the other night it might be football or, you know, the odd night will be cricket as well. So I suppose when we were a bit younger, we just tried out a heap of sports in the backyard, and I guess that's where we sort of built our competitiveness and our love of sport just growing up with two other brothers. So I guess that's where it started there. And I guess in time, I started playing basketball and football as well when I was younger, and cricket didn't really come along until a little bit later, till I was about 12 or 13. So my older brother started cricket, the local East Ballarat cricket team in Ballarat. So I think one week I went and watched him on an early Saturday morning, and his side were a little bit short. So sure enough, I was there, or lucky enough I was there. I could fill in for his side and ended up just fielding for them, which was pretty enjoyable to be able to play with my older brother. So I think one memory from that game, I took a catch in the field in my first game, so that kind of got me pretty excited. And come the next season, I was signed up in the under-14s, I think. So I guess that's where cricket started for me.
Right. That's quite the journey. And so you missed out. So just talking about your career as well. So you missed out on what could have been a great 100 against Queensland, where you got dismissed on 98, I suppose. So it must be really gut-wrenching, wasn't it?
It was at the time, but I guess now I think about it, you know, 98 still contributed to a good Victorian win up at the Gabba. So, yeah, at the time it was a bit disappointing, I guess, to bat, you know, as well as I did that day. And I think I was stuck on 98 over the tea break. So I had, you know, half an hour to think about, or 20 minutes to think about, you know, how am I going to score my next two runs to bring up the ton. But yeah, it wasn't to be. I think I faced about 4 or 5 more balls after tea and was given out LBW. So at the time, yeah, pretty disappointed. But at the end of the game, obviously we got the win. So, you know, couldn't complain.
Right. And and looking at the stats, you're naturally a great red ball player. So how is Test different to the shorter forms of the game?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I think growing up, I was more enjoyed playing the white ball a bit better, purely because we hardly played, you know, much long format of the game growing up. So I guess it wasn't until I sort of started playing, you know, in the Victorian second 11 and then the Shield stuff, the 4 days with the Victorian side. Wasn't until I started playing, you know, those longer formats with them that I found red ball a bit more enjoyable and more challenging, and really made me respect the game of cricket a bit more by playing that format. But yeah, I think the differences between the two, the white ball and the red ball, it's just, I think patience is a big one. Obviously, you know, T21 days, it's all sort of happening so quickly and it's more exciting and everyone's up and about, and you got to be sort of think on your feet a bit quicker. And whereas in the red ball, although you have to be switched on for every ball, you sort of give yourself more time to think and set up your innings.
Right. And how do you see the future of the longer format of the game? Because obviously, with the rise of T20, people are somehow losing interest in the longer format, and then it's also due to the life choices as well. Everyone is obviously busier nowadays. So where do you see the future of longer format of the game?
Yeah, it's a good question. Personally, I think the 5-day test matches might turn to 4, but for my sake or for my enjoyment's sake, I hope 4-day cricket or 5-day cricket anyway can last for forever. It's such a massive tradition of the game to be able to play the longer format. But as you said, the white ball stuff, the T20s are getting a lot more popular these days, and I know it is an exciting spectacle for people to watch. But as a cricketer myself, like personally, I think that the challenge and tradition of red ball and the longer format, your 3, 4, 5 days of cricket, I've come to respect that a lot more than white ball cricket.
Right. And we'll just flip the questions and just go to the women's side of the game. And obviously there's the Women Big Bash League now, and there's growing attendance and growing interest. But how do you see that we could possibly feed more excitement into that side of the game?
Yeah, cricket for women's really taken off the last 2-3 years, which has been awesome to see. I guess make it more exciting. I know over the last couple of years it's getting bigger and bigger, so women's cricket's only going to keep growing and growing, and they're going to play more games. So I guess more people are going to be able to watch them as well as they keep playing more games. So I think that's exciting for women's cricket in the future.
Right. And do you consider yourself a batting all-rounder or a batsman who bowls part-time off spin?
Yes, I'd like to call myself a batting all-rounder. Yeah, it's always handy to be able to, I guess, bowl as well if the team needs, whether it's give the quicks a bit of a spell or, try and play a bit more of a defensive role with the ball. I'm happy to help wherever suits.
Yeah. And what is the most memorable bowling spell of your career?
It's a tough question. There's probably not many highlights there, but again, probably the same game up at the Gabba last year. I know there was a heap of rain clouds around, and it was getting pretty dark, and sort of come down to the last day and the last couple of hours. Our quick bowlers were pretty cooked, and I think the captain just threw me on to see if anything would happen. And I was lucky enough to take a couple of wickets there at the end and help set up the win. So that was pretty memorable to get that win.
And who's your most favorite teammate?
Oh, that's a tough question. There's a lot of good blokes. I think I'm kind of lucky at the moment to sort of my age range at 24, because I sort of sit in the middle age bracket of the squad. So I've got a lot of good mates who are a bit older who I've played a lot with now, and also a lot of younger boys that haven't so much played as much cricket, but to be around them's been awesome. So I can't really narrow it down to one.
Yeah. No, definitely a very diplomatic answer, but we'll accept that.
Sitting on the fence.
Yeah. And just talking about like who's currently your most favorite player in the Australian team, who you would say that you want to actually become like him or follow in his footsteps? Could be a present or a past player.
Yep. It's hard to go by a couple of Victorians. I love Petey Hanscom, just his I guess his work ethic and his knowledge of the game. I'm lucky enough to sit in the slip cordon with him with Victoria, and to be able his advice or his way of thinking about the game and different scenarios. That's been awesome to stand next to him during games. I used to love watching Matthew Hayden and Adam Gilchrist open the batting for Australia back in the day in the white ball form. So I think, although I'm not as big as Matthew Hayden, but I'm similar in height, so just loved watching him bat and sort of see his dominance when he's at the crease.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a great. The Invincible team was I think the best Australian team ever. So you mentioned Pete Hanscom, and I like Pete Hanscom as well. And for one reason, because he's a very good player of the spin bowling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an area most of the Australian batsmen struggle in. And if you look back at the Invincibles as men, all of the batsmen were really good against the spin. So why has Australia in recent times, Australian batsmen in particular, why have they struggled against spin as such?
Yeah, it's another great question. I think might come down to the conditions of the wickets, I reckon, around Australia. They're getting pretty flat, so doesn't really give the conditions in Australia, especially, most of the main grounds around the country, I think, don't offer much for the spinners. I think, Sydney or SAG might be one, but apart from that, the Gabba or Hobart or the Wacker or Adelaide Oval always seem to suit fast bowlers. So teams sort of going quick bowler heavy, and it's always the spinners that seem to miss out. So I think obviously that means that the batsmen are facing more quicks and not much spin. So I guess that sort of coincides to the Aussie team if they go overseas onto different conditions and spinning wickets. That's why we struggle a bit, I think.
Right. And what do you prefer yourself? Do you prefer fast bowling or playing against spin?
I think fast bowling. I guess, as I just mentioned before, like I think because we face so much fast bowling, spin's a little bit unnatural, I guess. I know you face a lot of spin at training or in the nets, but come game day, you're not really used to facing as much spin as you are fast bowling on those flatter wickets.
Right. And who's the hardest bowler that you've ever faced?
Peter Siddle and James Pattinson in the nets are always pretty tough. Just because they're so accurate, they can swing the ball, they can nip the ball, and it's always a challenge facing those skillful bowlers.
Yeah, and it's also their attitude, I guess, as well. They just come down at you and just bowl with as much pace as it can. And Peter Siddle obviously had a very long career as well. So again, a very good player, bloke for the Australian team.
Yep.
So just talking about spin again, who is the most challenging spinner? And I would mention who is the most challenging Australian spinner that you've ever faced.
Mm-hmm. Steve O'Keefe was a tough one. He was just super competitive. He always, once he'd come on, he'd always start chirping up or start giving you a bit of lip. So you always knew you were in the contest when he'd come on. So, he was always tough, and you never really knew if one would slide on straight or one would spin. So he was also really smart with his fields and always got you in the contest. So he was one that was always difficult to face.
And do you think that the longer format of the game now has changed? If you look back at 10 years, even 10 years ago, it used to be very different before.
Yeah, I suppose. Like, I've only been playing for maybe 3 or 4 years now for Victoria, and I think it's changed a little bit since then. But yeah, I suppose from 10 years ago, it's hard to tell. Obviously, wasn't playing back then, but from what a couple of the older boys have said, it's changed a little bit. Just obviously the conditions are a lot easier for the batsmen, and it's always a bit harder to get those 20 wickets a game to win the match. So I think that's one of the main changes.
Right. And So I'm asking you. I know I'm asking you a lot of questions, but what is your most favorite stadium, and why that stadium?
Um, oh, it's hard to go past the MCG, but I've never really played there when it's been full. So the Shield, the Shield games that we play, there's hardly anyone there. We'd be lucky to get 300 people there. So Adelaide Oval comes very close to being on top there. I think played a lot of Big Bash games there now, and to be able to get 35 to 45,000 people there. It's pretty electric. It's they create a great atmosphere, and certainly get the boys up and about. It's good fun.
Yeah, and I know it's a bit easier for us to sit and think about the challenges that players face, but what is it in reality that a player has to go through? Like yourself, you're still playing first class cricket. So what are the challenges that a player actually faces in reality in first class?
Um, I think it's just challenges within yourself.
Mm.
You're obviously playing first class cricket for a reason, and people think you're good enough to play, so that's why you get picked in the end. But then it's sort of the mental side of the game where, do I actually belong here, or you sort of have that. You're sort of playing a game against yourself, just inside your head, rather than actually focusing on the ball coming at you, or the next play, or whatever it is. So I think the mental side of the game's probably the most challenging thing for a cricketer.
Mm. And cricket is obviously a team game, but we've seen a lot of players come out now individually stating, coming out with mental health issues and problems, and a lot of the players now sitting out, which is obviously a good thing that there's more awareness now. But why do you feel a game that's actually a team game? Why do you
Mm-hmm.
see people struggle so much at the individual level?
Yeah, I know it is a team game. Cricket, there's 11 guys out on the field, but at the end of the day, you're the one with the ball, and it's up to you with the ball to get the wicket, or it's up to you as an individual with the bat to score runs. So I guess it's a team full of individuals, and each individual has to play their own role within themselves. So I guess that's the challenging side of cricket is, although, as I said, although that you are a team of 11 players, during a match, during every match, you are an individual, playing your own individual role within that team.
Absolutely. And obviously, I was just looking at a trend that more batsmen have actually come out with these issues as opposed to the bowlers. So is it more challenging for the batsman as a game, because obviously you've got one shot, and if you're out, you're out. That's your only opportunity of the game. So is it more challenging as a batsman? And I'm asking you that question because you're obviously a batting all-rounder yourself.
I suppose you're right. I guess as a batsman, I'm just going off my own personal thoughts. When I'm batting, I feel like I'm thinking a lot more about the game. I'm thinking about, what could happen, what has happened, what should I do now. That's the biggest challenge, is trying to stay in the moment, without overthinking anything. And when I'm bowling, I feel a bit freer. I feel like, I've got the rest of the boys in the field to back me up. Or I've got the captain out there with me, helping me with fields, and almost thinking about the game, with me. So I guess as a batter, personally, I feel like I'm thinking about things too much, or a lot more than bowling. So I guess, not that I've had mental health issues or something before. I feel like it's hard to comment on, but because I don't know what they feel like. But I guess as a batter, you kind of feel yourself thinking about your game a lot more than if I was bowling.
And with the rise of social media, do you think it has affected players negatively? Because nowadays, if players don't perform straight away, they see negative comments real time on the web. So do you think it has put more pressure on the players now?
I think so. And that, again, would come down to the individual. Whether I know I see some comments as well, and I do read things, and I think I'm lucky that I can sort of deal with that and just not even worry about it. But I guess some people do read those comments, and if they do get a fair few negative ones, then I feel like it can affect them, in a negative way. So, I guess the amount of social media and newspapers that are out there, with all the negative comments, it can hurt people.
That's right. And obviously, there's a lot of meme and rumors culture as well. So people are just doing things for what we say in Australia, what we call in Australia banter. And sometimes I guess it goes out of control. So what do you think, and that's just a general question, obviously we're not expert, but what do you think can be done to curb this situation or the scenario?
It's a tough question. I've heard a few things that could happen, maybe like a bit more security on signing up to these social media accounts, or there is a lot of those trolls, I guess they're called out there, or keyboard warriors, just trying to create that banter, or sometimes stepping over the line and going too far. So really, I think most cricketers I know, they do read the comments or whatever it is, and they just brush it off pretty easy and move on. You sort of, you're a cricketer and you kind of expect those things. But it's a good question. I'm not really sure how you can get rid of that, but I guess showing a bit more, or stamping down on these accounts, or blocking them, or deleting them off Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is, Facebook. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. All right, let's calm the conversation down a bit. So we went down a very serious path, but what is your most favorite shot if you had to pick one?
I'd go straight drive. I feel
Right.
like, I think that's my favourite. That looks good. There's never any fielders past the bowlers, so to be able to hit one straight back past the bowlers, always a good feeling.
Yeah. And what about your weakest shot, in your opinion, that you think you can still work and improve on?
It's a good question. I think I feel like I'm getting caught behind a little bit, sort of off the back foot. So I could always work on my leaves a bit better.
Yeah. Well, that's a shot.
It is. It's probably my weakest one at the moment.
Yeah. And again, talking about the longer format of the game as well, I guess and you mentioned patience. So obviously that includes patience. So you never play a bad ball. And there were players like Justin Langer or even any great player you mentioned, even Steve Smith. You've seen him come out of tough situations many times. And that's what he does, basically. Never, ever plays a bad shot. So I guess that's what differentiates a good batsman, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I reckon they're just mentally stronger, for a longer period of time. They know their game inside out, and they're scoring shots. So they just wait and wait and wait for their ball, and, are able to keep out the good balls. So, I think being mentally stronger than other players is definitely something I'd look to improve. Yeah.
And if you had to pick a batsman who is not Australian, which batsman would you pick?
That's a good question as well. I love Rohit Sharma.
Very
I
classic
know
player.
I just love watching him play. The white ball form, opening the batting, or he's had a few recent nice test innings as well. So that kind of top order attacking batsman with the white ball into attacking middle order batsman in the red ball is something I like watching and would like to be.
Right. And Matt, as obviously you're there, you've played cricket, you're still playing cricket. What is your advice to budding and aspiring cricket players or anyone who wants to get into the game? So obviously the younger people, what would your best advice be to them?
For a young person, I think just to enjoy it. I think when I first started, I found it really hard to get things right. Like I was bowling it off the pitch, or I was missing balls, like playing and missing. But I stuck at it because I enjoyed it. I had a heap of mates, like as teammates, and it was just really enjoyable to meet new people and just enjoy cricket and learn the game with those mates. So just enjoy it and stick at it.
That's a good advice. And again, it was obviously we're short of time, but it was a very good conversation. I had a great time chatting to you, Matt. So thanks again for your time. It was great. It was great chatting to you again. We wish you all the best in your career, and hoping to see you soon in the baggy green colors. And thank you.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
No worries. All right, mate. Have a good one.
Cheers.